If everything in your life feels harder lately, not easier. If doors keep closing that you thought God opened. If people you expected to stay suddenly disappeared. If the answers you prayed for are taking longer than you thought they would, this message is for you. Because before God changes your life, He prepares your heart. And preparation rarely feels like blessing. Sometimes it feels like delay. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like everything around you is shifting at the same time. And if you're honest, you've probably asked yourself, God, what are you doing in my life right now? But what if nothing is going wrong? What if God is removing what cannot follow you into your next season? Because throughout the Bible, before every promotion, there was a test. Joseph was tested before the palace. David was tested before the throne. Abraham was tested before the promise. Even Jesus was tested before his ministry began. So, if your life feels uncomfortable right now, you are not being ignored. You are being prepared. And there are 5 tests God often allows before He changes someone's life. If you recognize them early, you won't quit in the middle of your process. You'll understand what God is doing, and that changes everything. Let's start with the first one. One of the first things God will test in your life is how you respond when nothing moves. Because waiting reveals what you truly trust. It's easy to believe when doors open quickly. It's easy to stay confident when answers come fast. But what happens when you pray and nothing changes? When you obey and nothing improves? When you stay faithful and life actually becomes harder, that is where faith becomes real. Abraham waited years. Joseph waited years. David waited years. And those years were not empty. God was preparing them. Because if God gives you the blessing too early, it can destroy what He is trying to build inside you first. So if your life feels slow right now, it may not be rejection. It may be preparation. The second test God often allows before He changes your life is separation. Because before God brings the right people into your next season, He removes the wrong ones from your current one. And this is one of the hardest tests to recognize, because it doesn't feel spiritual. It feels personal. It feels confusing. It feels like loss. Sometimes relationships change without explanation. Sometimes support disappears when you expected it the most. Sometimes people you thought would walk with you into your future stop walking with you altogether. And if you're honest, that hurts. But throughout the Bible, God often separated people before He promoted them. Joseph was separated from his family before the palace. David was separated from Saul before the throne. Abraham was separated from his homeland before the promise. Because not everyone can go where God is taking you next. And if God allowed everyone to stay, some of them would stop what He is trying to build in your life. So, if certain people have been leaving your life recently, don't assume God abandoned you. Sometimes He is protecting your calling. Sometimes He is protecting your peace. Sometimes He is preparing space for what is coming next. Another test God often allows before He changes your life is silence. There are seasons when you pray and heaven feels quiet. You ask God for direction, but nothing becomes clearer. You wait for confirmation, but nothing moves. And after a while, you start wondering if God is still listening. But silence in the Bible was never absence. It was preparation. Joseph experienced silence in the pit, silence in slavery, silence in prison. David experienced silence while running for his life. Job experienced silence in the middle of suffering he didn't understand. And even Jesus walked through the wilderness before His ministry began. So, if God feels quiet right now, it does not mean He left you. It may mean He is doing something deeper than you can see yet. Because God is not only interested in changing your situation, He is interested in changing you. Another test God often allows before He changes your life is obedience without explanation. Because sometimes God will ask you to move, before he tells you where you're going. He will ask you to trust him before he shows you the outcome. Abraham was told to leave his country without knowing the destination. Noah built an ark before he ever saw rain. Peter stepped out of the boat while the storm was still happening, and none of those instructions made sense at the moment. But obedience is not tested when everything is clear. It's tested when you don't understand, and you still trust God anyway. Sometimes God will close a door and not explain why. Sometimes he will change your plans and not show you what comes next. Not because he is confusing you, but because he is teaching you to depend on him. So if God has been asking you to trust him lately, in ways that don't make sense yet, it may not be uncertainty. It may be preparation for something bigger than what you can see right now. The last test God often allows before he changes your life is the test of character, because God cares more about who you are becoming than where you are going. And before he gives you influence, he builds integrity. Before he gives you visibility, he builds humility. Before he gives you responsibility, he builds faithfulness. Joseph had the ability to lead long before he reached the palace, but God used the prison to shape his character first. David was already anointed king, but he still had to learn patience in the wilderness, because promotion without character can destroy what God is trying to build in your life. So if God is working on your heart right now, more than your situation, it's not delay, it's preparation. If you recognize one or more of these tests in your life right now, this is not a coincidence. God may be preparing you for something you cannot see yet, because throughout the Bible, every time God was about to change someone's life, he prepared them first. So if things feel slower than expected, if people have walked away, if answers feel delayed, if obedience feels difficult, and if God feels quiet at times, don't assume something is wrong. God does not abandon his children. He prepares them. And maybe the season you are in right now is not a season of rejection. It's a season of preparation. Because before God changes your life, he changes you first.